What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY in the overall market. I want to talk about some very important levels to watch for and why we saw the market kind of pump and dump alongside Tesla. But first, note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And don't forget to smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. So for Tesla, we saw some very, very interesting volatility. We got this nice pump to just under 225. Then we dumped all the way down to about 218. So we dropped about almost 7 points. Then we made our way back up to about 223. Then we came back down. So we're just going back and forth all over the place. Notice that SPY did something very similar. We managed to pump. We basically started off around 559. We got this big pump to 562. Then we dumped back down to 558. So we dropped 4 points only to make our way back up. So the market's all over the place. It's just trading in a range. The question is, what's going on? Why is the market moving like this? So the first thing I want to mention, at least for Tesla, was we did get an initial push because of some good news that came out. Tesla's gotten a very, very good rating from Baird. This is from different analysts out there, and they're basically saying that Tesla will likely outperform the markets because of the fact that the EU tariffs are better than feared. And basically, what happened was the EU tariffs were supposed to be over 20% for Tesla, but they were reduced to only 9%, and that made many analysts very excited. So that's a good piece of news. That's why we have a $280 price target from them, at least for Tesla. And that's a good piece of news. So that's part of why Tesla initially pushed. And then the whole market made a very, very big move as well because of the non-farm payrolls annual revision. And this is big news that came out. So it's right over here. The US Labor Department revises the 12-month job growth down by a massive 818,000 jobs. This means that the US economy actually created 818,000 less jobs than initially reported. So the numbers were wrong and they have to revise these. That's very, very important. And the US economy also lost 192,000 jobs in Q3 of 2023. They added 344,000 in Q4 of 2023, which is lower than expected. On top of this, non-farm payrolls data showed the U.S. labor market added 663,000 and 577,000. That's less than expected. That's almost a 1 million job difference over the last 2 quarters. So they have to revise this data and once again adjust things. The growth is now down by 818,000. So not the best of news. The market got a somewhat negative reaction, kind of mixed reaction, I'd say, which is why we kind of pumped and dumped. So, what do I see for Tesla from this point? We're just going to focus on Tesla. As far as Tesla goes, I'm a little bit concerned about this setup. Now, as you guys can see, we have a possible left shoulder here, a head and maybe a right shoulder that could be forming for Tesla. And this could lead to a head and shoulders like structure, which leads to more downside. That's a strong possibility. If Tesla fails to hold 220, I think we're going to be going all the way down to at least the 215 area. So there might be a big rug pull coming if we fail to hold 220. If we break 225, we could try to rebound. But so far, it's looking like we had this high right here at 228. We came down, made a lower high, and this may start to trend downwards off the head and shoulders. Now, despite the head and shoulders, that's just a short term projection because the longer term is still bullish. And let me explain. So, what could be happening, excuse me, is Tesla's turning a little bit more bearish on the 4-hour time frame. So yes, we might see a temporary dip, but we're still holding this white trend line and we're still on a much bigger uptrend. So the short term could cause somewhat of a dip. We could see the market dip a little bit. We could see Tesla dip a little bit. I was talking about this yesterday too, but this could just be a giant cup and handle that Tesla is forming. And if we do dip a little bit, as long as we're above this trend line, as long as we hold above 212, Tesla could still rebound. So it's still on an uptrend, at least for now, unless we lose the trend line. If we were to lose this big white trend line right here, then yes, we could turn back down. But it hasn't done so yet, so we're still on a much larger uptrend. But it's just that for the short term, despite this big uptrend, the short term is still showing signs of this dip. So the short term could still be bearish despite that. Hopefully that's as clear as possible, right? The market could be on a massive uptrend, but there could be instances where we have these like short-term downtrends or bearish cycles. So the market moves in cycles, and right now Tesla is entering kind of like a more bearish phase. So I see a risk of us potentially dipping lower. So please be very, very careful with this. Now, whether or not we get the big dip will also depend on one other factor. Just notes that we also happen to have, I forgot to mention this, the FOMC minutes today at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if we get data the market doesn't like, Tesla could get this rug pull and start dipping back down to 217, if not 215. And if we get good data and Tesla in the market likes it, we could be pushing for 225 plus. With the head and shoulders here, just be very careful with Tesla. I want to give you guys a heads up about that. For SPY, we have a bearish divergence that has formed. And like I said, we're just all over the place, going back and forth between these levels. As you guys can see, I think my line got deleted right over here. I had a line right here around this 562 area. That's the level I called out if we broke 560. So we're shuffling between 558 and 562. We're going to likely continue to remain very close to 560. And then we're going to be looking for a huge reaction once we get the FOMC minutes. Look for a very, very big reaction. We'll see if SPY breaks 562 to remain bullish, or if we lose 558 and start dipping down to lower levels. My guts tells me we might dip a little bit and get close to the 556 area. So just be careful, be very mindful of that, and we'll see what happens with the big data release. For Nvidia, we pumped all the way up to about just under 130, only to dump back down to 128. See how this trend is kind of like shifting right here. One concern is that we had this high here, came down, made a lower high, came down, made a lower high. We're making lower highs. If we end up losing 127, look for a dip all the way down towards 125 or the 125 area. If we break past 130, we remain bullish. This could be establishing a lower high and start dipping lower. So there is a risk of us coming down to the mid 120s. So be very careful with this, and we'll have to see how things go. As far as Bitcoin goes, we're kind of stuck in the middle, going back and forth and back and forth. We have 60,000 as resistance. We have support all the way down here around 59,000. We're kind of stuck in the middle. So I think that with this shuffling that's going on, there's a risk of stepping a little bit lower. So we'll just have to give this some time. As far as Tesla goes, Tesla is once again forming this head and shoulders right now. I'm a little concerned about this. If we lose key support, this will be dipping. So it looks a little bit weaker because of that. QQQ also has a bearish divergence that's been forming. We did push to about 484 only to come back down. Look at resistance at 482 and then look at support currently at 480. If that fails us, we're going down to about 479.5, followed by the 477 area. So we look like we might dip to the 477s. We're kind of weak on this trend, and there is a risk of us dipping because of this big liquidity grab that formed. So we'll see. At least that's what technicals suggest, but don't forget it depends on the FOMC minutes. For other factors out there like Aapl, we're just range bound. Like I said in my morning video, we're stuck between 227 and 226. We're going to likely just shuffle and we'll see which way we break. If we break the 227s, we could be going up to 228. And if we lose 226, our target would be down to 225, then 223.8. So be careful with Aapl because of that. For a few more, IWM is holding up. We're still shuffling between 215 and 213. We'll see if we lose 213, start dipping to 212. So be mindful of that. For Amazon is kind of pumped a bit, only all the way up to about 182.5, only to dip back down. Look at support at 179. If that fails us, we're going back down towards this trend line in the 177s. Look at resistance at 180 and then 182. So I do see a risk of us dipping lower, so be very mindful of that. For Meta is kind of in the middle right now. We did push a little bit, only to dip back down. Although I did call out this possible head and shoulders, I said to watch your levels to be safe, and we're just kind of range bound on this. So as you guys can see, we're just kind of going back and forth between supply and demand. So look at support at 530. If that fails us, we're going back down towards 524. And then if we end up hitting resistance, watch this 537 area. So I think we could dip lower to 530, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For Microsoft, we're kind of churning right now. Look at support at 422. If that breaks, we could be dipping all the way down to much lower levels, such as 420. And we have resistance at 425. So for now, there could be a dip coming towards the 422 area. And then for Google, I was still targeting that 166 zone. We actually touched 166. So we look like we could dip a little bit more and retest 166. So be careful with Google. With that being said, guys, as far as the market goes, just know there's a little bit of weakness building in Tesla stock just temporarily. Okay. We could get a temporary dip before we get bought back up again, at least for now, as long as we hold this big white trend line down here as our support. And the head and shoulders is still valid. So be careful with Tesla. There could be a dip coming based off technicals, but don't solely base your analysis on technicals. Don't only just trade based off that. Don't forget we have the FOMC minutes, and that could also cause a big move. So get ready for that at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's about 2.5 hours from now, guys. So get ready for some high volatility, and we'll see how things go. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate you guys for your attention, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one in just a couple of hours. By the time I upload my next video, the data should be out. So get ready for a big move at 11. Not 11. It's 11 o'clock a.m. for me in the West Coast, but for people in the East Coast. For New York time, it's going to be 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So get ready for that and do what you have to do, guys. I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you and peace out.